Welcome to this episode of the Gunman. In this video I'll be taking you through the paintwork on this C230 Mercedes Benz painted in Iridium Silver. Color code is 775. I'm using Standox Solvent based Basecoat and Crystal Clear Pro with HS hardener in it. So I'll be taking it right the way through. It's already prep work's done in this one. Taking you right the way through from here to getting it finished off, and I also ended up getting just a small run in it, and I've also got footage of that, taking it out the back and showing you how to remove the run in it. So pretty nice car, this thing. It's a convertible C230. So what I'm using here is just those white DeVilbiss wipes are the brand that I'm using. They're just a lint-free cloth that helps you remove any contaminants, grease and stuff like that could be left over on the panel after you've prepped it up. So it also cleans out any of the dust that may be left inside the sanding scratches. And then after this, we'll end up going over it with a tack cloth. I like to use the yellow ones. Some people prefer the Basecoat ones, which are the blue ones, but personally I don't tack cloth my Basecoat. I only tack cloth my before I paint. I've found you actually can get less dust in your Basecoat than if you don't tack grade your Basecoat. So if you follow these steps, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to get the same results as me. So any questions I'll happily answer. Just as I've been saying in a couple of my vids lately, just try to keep the questions in the public comments rather than inboxes, because there's no need to be ashamed or embarrassed that you don't know something, and it also enables other people to read the answers and also join in, and they can answer as well. You're more than welcome. If you know the answer to someone else's question, put your own point of view in and have it as a discussion. So I'm just going over the whole panels twice, as you've noticed here, as to clean it down really nice, because this is the final step before you start painting, and it's going to be what determines how much dust you get in your paint job. So I'm using the DeVilbiss GTI Pro with the H1 Air Cap, which is a HVLP Air Cap on it. And starting off putting our first coat of base coat on there. I've started to slow it down for now we're actually painting, so sometimes on the prep work I like to speed it up at double speed just to stop the videos from getting too long. You're more than welcome to give feedback as well. Share the videos, like and comment on them. It's always welcome. I do my best to get back to most questions as soon as possible. I'm constantly uploading about 3 videos a week, depending on how much time I have. So just here, I just ended up finding a little bit of dust or something in the base coat, which I just ended up wiping out with my finger. You could alternately use a tack rag, but this was only a small bit. I was able to move it off with my finger. So just when you're doing stuff like that, just obviously be careful that your base coat has dried enough to do stuff like that. So next is our second coat. We're starting to blend over that quarter panel now. And this bumper bar will start getting coverage after our second and third coat. If you hang around to the end, there's a link to a couple of my videos, a couple of other videos, a couple of my popular vids. Check them out if you haven't already seen them. There's also a subscription link, so you can click that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of my latest videos. I've also got a Facebook page, you can check that out. If you haven't already done so, there's a link in the description in all of my videos. So there's another little just bit of dust that I ended up finding there, so I brushed it out carefully. I ended up leaving out the final coat of base coat on this bumper bar just to stop the video from getting too long, but you got most of the footage of it there. So I ended up waiting for a few minutes in between coats, but I cut that out again just to stop the video. Probably about 2 or 3 minutes in between coats with this solvent base coat. If you're using water base, it might slow down a little bit. So what I've got here in that gun there is a blending aid. It's basically just clear base coat. I call it blending clear, and Glazeret is called blending clear as well. Every single paint system has one, and it allows this final coat of colour to land in that wet bed. So I've had a few guys ask me questions about what that blending clear is. Some people think that it's just normal clear that's thinned right out, but it's not. It's clear base coat. It's just like any tinter on the tinting machine, on your tinting rack, but it's just got no colour in it. So when you mix the colour up, obviously this has got mostly silver in it. It's got a little bit of pearl in it actually, this colour as well. Got a touch of black, it might have a touch of blue and a touch of yellow. Sometimes when you've got colours that are full of pearl, they need this stabiliser, is what it's actually called. And it's just clear base coat. So that's all that I'm using to help my blends. So Standox solvent base, it's called 599 is the number of the tinter, and the other paint that I used to use, which I can quote the name of, is MO in Glazeret solvent base as well. MO is the name of the number of the tinter, which is the clear base, which will enable you to blend. So if you're using any other paint systems, I'm not sure on the numbers, because I've only ever, even though I've been doing it for quite some time, I've only ever actually used Standox and Glazeret in the shops that I've worked in. Worked in many shops, but they've only ever used these two paint systems, which are good quality paints, German paints. So that's the first coat of clear finished off now. I've then given it 5 minutes. As you can see here, I ended up getting a small run here. It's not too big, but at the end of this second coat of clear, I've got another quick clip on how to remove that run. Once we ended up leaving the car overnight, I baked the car out as well. So if you hang around, you can check out how to remove those kind of runs. So even though I've been doing this for a hell of a long time, it's 15 years now, I'm in my 15th year, we still get runs. It's just something that happens in this trade, but it's if you know how to fix it. So second coat, I'm using the DeVilbiss, or otherwise known as finishing brands in America. It's called the Tanker Pro Light, but in Australia it's called the DeVilbiss GTI Pro Light. I'm using the TE20 air cap on it. 25 psi is the pressure you want to set the gun at. Any more you'll start having too much wastage, and any lower then you'll get too much orange peel. So 25, this gun just hums along really nice. It's a really easy gun to use. I'm really happy with it. So you take note of how I only actually put my first coat of clear didn't go right up to that front edge of the quarter panel. I only put my second coat over that so that I didn't end up with too much colour difference. And then what I've got in this small minigun here, I've got it's just blending thinners. It's not the same. It's not that blending clear which I used in the base coat. This is just a different product. I'm using AK350 is the number of it, and it's a DuPont product. It's called blending thinner. It's really good. It's just a fade out thinner to allow us to blend the fresh clear into the old clear, which can then be polished out later on. So this is our second coat of clear on the bumper bar. And the rest of the settings on the gun I'm using is full fan, and I find that about 3 turns out with the fluid. So you wind the fluid needle right in, which is that one on the back, not the top one, but the one in just above my hand there. You wind that right in, and then there's a little line on it which you can wind out 3 full circles, so 3 full turns out. You can play around with that if you like. If it's extremely hot weather and you need to get more paint on because it's drying so quick, you can have it wound out a bit. But where I'm painting at the moment, I'm in Perth, Western Australia, so it's the colder months this time of year, so I'll wind it in a bit. I might find I'm changing it up a bit in the warmer months. Change the way that you paint for the conditions. So that's just about that job wrapped up for the spray painting side of things. We've then just got that run to polish out. I give it 5 minutes while I'm cleaning my guns out. Bake the car out for 45 minutes at 60 degrees. It's nice and clean. Apart from that, there's not much to polish in it. We left it overnight, fitted the bumper bar back on. And then we got it out the back into the detailing bay, which is where it is here. And what I've got, I'm going to start off using the tungsten block, is what I've got here. And also got a razor blade, and we use a sanding block as well. So being that's been left overnight, it's going to be hard enough to use this block on. If it was the same day, I would never use a tungsten block or a razor blade on it, unless you'd put the heat lights on it. The infrared drying lights could make it dry enough to use this if you needed to absolutely do it on the same day, which I've done plenty of times before. There's no reason you can't remove runs the same day, but you just must make sure it's dry enough, or else you just peel it back up and you'll have to repaint the panel again, which is, no one really wants to do that, especially for the sake of just a small run. So I'm just shaving that down, so you can see that what this tungsten block does, it only hits the high spots. So the high spots obviously is where the build up of the run is, and it's not hitting either side of it, so it's only shaving down the area that we want to shave down. You can then feel it with your fingers, make sure you're happy with it. I've decided that's gone enough with the tungsten, and depending on where it is, it's on a bit of a tricky little corner, so that's why I decided to use the razor blade. And see, I just bent it over and bent it in half a little bit, so it's got a bit of a curve on there, and I'm going to finish it off with the razor blade. And then I've got, in that bucket down there, you can see on the ground, I've got some 800 grit. You've got to be very careful when you're using 800, because it can go through quite easy. You may want to use something like 1200 or 1500 instead. And if you do use 800, you can't polish it straight up. You must take the 800 grit scratches out with some 2000. So that's 800 there. I like to use sometimes 800 because it will cut you won't see a shadow run. Sometimes people remove runs, but you can still actually see it. They've taken the sharpness out of it, but you can actually still see the shadow of where the run was. But most of the time you can't see that when I do them, because I make sure I take them down properly. So that's an 800 I use, and then wiping it off, having a look at it in the light, get the eye on in the reflection, rub over it with your hand. I've then decided to just go over it with the 1500, which we've got on the orbital sander here. The Roops Bigfoot is what this thing's called. Just to remove those 800 grit scratches and enable it to be polished. Just taking it, see how I'm taking it out a little bit further, as to make sure that if I just rub just exactly that area where the run was, then you could end up seeing one flat spot, but I've feathered it out so that you're not going to have orange peel next to it and then a flat spot, so it's not going to be as easy to see. It's going to take the eye off that one big flat spot, and it's going to feather the orange peel back in. And then I've just got the cutting compound, got my Roops buff, and off I go with the polishing. Well, this is the cut stage, so after that we'll run over it with a glazing pad. Just make sure you hang on each spot for a good minute or so. Obviously not going too far, because if you take too much off, then you can end up cutting through. You may not actually go through with your sandpaper, but you can sometimes go through with the actual polishing buff itself. But you still got to make sure you've taken out those scratches that we left behind. So it turns out I was pretty happy with how this turned out. You can't see any shadow runs. There's no colour difference on the colour from that quarter panel to the door. The lads then gave it a wash up, and it's right for delivery by the owner. So you can see it's pretty much gone there. No colour difference on the rear bar, which we put our colour edge to edge on. And just take our microfiber cloth, wipe the rest of the car down. Check out these links at the end. If you haven't seen them, click that subscribe button. Thanks again for watching, and this has been another Gunman production. Goodbye.